about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based here in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations, and it is Mindset Monday. And this is an opportunity for you and me and my guests to have an interactive conversation. Our focus has been on Black and Brown communities of color, or should I say Black and Brown communities, and mental health, mental wellness. And we have been focused on Black and Brown clinicians and having them on to talk with us about various sundry things surrounding mental health and wellness, seeking to normalize the conversation and hopefully encourage folks to connect with a counselor or therapist. That is like the ultimate to me when someone says, I have a counselor and I got them from Conversations with Nicole. I want that. All of that. Yeah. So, but we have a part 2 conversation with our special guest, Mr. Floyd Cornelius. I'm going to bring him on in just a moment. But before I do, you know what you got to do. I already see you chiming in right now with the good evenings, but I want to know where you're from. So in the comments, put your city and your state. Let me know where you are tuning in from. I see you, Miss T. Good evening. She's right here in Tallahassee. Thanks for watching. Hey there, Miss Ashanafi here. Hey, she said hi there, right here in Tallahassee. Serena Mina, right here in Tallahassee. And Angela Davis. I think Angela's in Tallahassee as well. No, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think that must be one of Floyd's peeps. So appreciate you being on here, Miss Angela from Harrisburg. We got Myra in Gainesville. That's my cousin, Virginia. Thank you for tuning in, cuz. Love you, love you. All right, so folks are putting their cities in. I appreciate that. I really do. So listen, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the Greater Works Network on Roku TV. So like, tag, share, show us some love. You're liking, you're tagging, you're commenting. That's how you support what we're doing here. All right, I see you, Marie. Yes, Miss Marie, Lyrical Marie, Broward County. Yes, but she is also right here in Tallahassee as well. So again, thank y'all for being here. This is interactive, so please get your talk on, get your chat on. We are talking addiction, recovery, and finding purpose. So this is part 2 because we had Floyd Cornelius on with us last month. We covered all of addiction, but we're going to do a little recap. And we did do some stuff on chat, some on recovery. So we'll cover a little bit of that as well. But then we're going to dive right into that finding purpose. Oh my goodness, I see my godmom on here from Miami. Thank you, godmom Corliss. I appreciate you being on here. All right, so before I bring Mr. Floyd on, we're going to read a little bit of his bio. He is a therapist. He's been working in the field of mental health and substance abuse for over 32 years, working in a variety of different treatment modalities, including private, one-on-one, inpatient, and outpatient settings. His specialty populations are men and women, adolescents, prison inmates, and treatment center patients. Floyd has been a certified trainer for the state of Florida, providing education to those who have been arrested for DUI. He received his bachelor's from Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, has a master's degree in counseling psychology and a graduate certificate in family counseling from Bowie State University. He presently works for a top residential substance abuse treatment center in Jacksonville, Florida. in addition to pursuing his doctorate degree in organizational psychology. So help me welcome Mr. Floyd Cornelius, who we also call Joy.
Hey, hey, what's up, everybody?
Good evening. Good evening.
Glad to be here, Nicole.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you back. So, for the folks who weren't here last time, and we want to say hey to Mr. Ozzy in Virginia Beach. Tell them who you are. Tell them who is Floyd Joy Cornelius.
Boy, I am a man who is called to work with those men and women who are just trying to find their way back. The men and women who are struggling with addiction. That's part of my call. That's part of my purpose. My purpose is tied to why I was born. It's tied to everything about me. And that's one of the things that drives me. That's one of the things that each and every day that I get up, I seek and I ask God to just word my mouth, to fill my heart with things I need to say to the people that have been put in my path and put in my way to work with. And part of who I am is that person that's also just growing, as I mentioned before, to even get better and better and not just stay complacent.
Absolutely, getting better and better. I love it, y'all. So I don't know if you all peeped that poster behind Floyd. That mindset is everything. I love it. I gotta zero in on that one last time. I just think that is so wonderful. That
That's,
kitten that looks at themselves and sees a lion, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's all in the mindset. That's what I try
All
to
in,
work.
all in mindset.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. So you were here last month and, we talked around addiction recovery. We didn't get to finding purpose,
Hmm.
but we're going to cover that tonight. But I do definitely want you to just give a recap of addiction definition and, who who was affected by addiction.
Yeah. Kind of a general overview of a general term of addiction is a person who is engaging in behaviors despite of the consequences of those behaviors. The person continues to engage in them. The consequences could be medical. They could have lost some health, had some health issues. Consequences could be psychological. They could have some issues with depression. Consequences can turn out to even be a loss of family issues. It can be a whole source of things that they're losing, and despite of those consequences, the person continues to engage in those behaviors. Those behaviors can be drinking and drugging. It could be gambling. It could be pornography, as we mentioned before. It can be just about anything that has the ability to become addicted.
Okay, good deal. Now, I'm gonna look to our audience for a little Q&A. Again, this is interactive, so let me hear from you all. How many of you have um, been faced with addiction, either yourself or a loved one that you have that's been a part of your life? Just if you don't mind sharing. Again, this is a safe space. Just give me a church finger, put your hand up, thumbs up, something like that, so we will know. And actually, I need to, while they are commenting, I need to read my disclaimer. So since you last was here, Floyd, I had to put a little disclaimer in place. So
Okay.
uh, all topics, past, present, and future, on Conversations with Nicole are for informational purposes only. They are not to be used as a diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to topics being discussed before, during, or after the program. So
Absolutely.
we're not replacing, even though some of our folks are licensed here. We're not replacing you going to see a professional. So we just got to put that out there. All
Absolutely.
right. So we got a few people chiming in. So with the thumbs up, with the church finger. So I appreciate you all sharing that. I think we did find last time that folks talked about how addiction affected. Maybe they weren't the person that was faced with addiction in terms
Yeah.
of them being a user or abuser, but they had
Yeah.
a family member and how it impacted their family.
Yeah.
Um, having a loved one that was a user or abuser of substances.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mhm. Okay. So Serena said, loved ones, like Floyd said, is often due to something in the individual's past, particularly past trauma of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about that before. I see that all the time. See that every day. Uh,
Mhm.
those traumas. You know, Judge Nina Ashinafi and I, we had a conversation one time. We talked about holes in the heart. And I remember
Mhm.
she told me about holes in the heart, and I told her that was so powerful, it was so profound for me.
Mhm.
And I had a teaching with patients on that topic of holes in the heart. And what are those empty spaces in your heart that you use to fill up? And so many of them raised their hand, and it was trauma. It was things they did because of the trauma. Obviously, it was the drug use. Some of them, it was selling their bodies. Some of them, it was gambling. Some of them, obviously, it was their drug of choice. But they were just always looking for something to fill them up.
Mhm.
There's nothing that's going to fill them up. And we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk a little bit more about recovery and and the purpose of that recovery. And the only thing that's going to fill them up in recovery is connecting to what I call and what many people call is that divine source. I call it God, but not everybody can connect with God like that. So it's that divine source, however you see God. And you have to connect with that divine source. And that is the thing that's going to fill you up. And then it's going to overflow you. And that's what I really help patients identify when they are talking about getting a recovery, getting into that divine source connection. Who is that divine source for you? So that you can live for your fill up and you can give others your overflow, if that makes sense.
Very good point. So I'm gonna again get the viewer input. So has that been your testimony, viewers, in terms of the divine source with a loved one? You know, them that helping them through the recovery efforts and getting out of the addiction. Um, Let me hear from you. So again, just put your hand up. Let us know, thumbs up, something or another. Serena said, "Agreed. Connecting to the divine source or higher power is key. Is
Mm,
key."
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 All right. Jamil said, "Giving from your overflow." Phew. Phew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I don't want to totally rehash addiction again because we did cover it. So I think let's move on to recovery. So I think this is a good segue to it.
Yeah.
But we kind of talked around last time how sometimes people when they are in recovery, they have a mindset of how things how they like things to be. But
Yes.
maybe their family has not gone through or their loved ones have not gone through a healing process and they see them the way that they did like they always have as an addict, right? And so they
Absolutely.
treat them as such.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's part of that stigma that the addict has to deal with. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's part of that enacted ENACTED stigma. That's
Hmm.
almost like that social discrimination of how society looks at a person who may have an addiction. And not everybody looks at the person this way, but these are some of the stigmas that addicts sometimes have to deal with. And that social discrimination might be because they committed a crime by
Hmm.
in their addiction. They burned a lot of bridges while they were in their addiction with their family members. They may have also burned some bridges with their employers. And they may have done some things that they really, really do regret. So sometimes they have a very difficult time getting housing. Sometimes they have a very difficult time finding a job. Sometimes they have a very difficult time reconnecting with their family because a lot of times reconnecting with the family, the addicts sometimes don't understand that they are, sometimes they have that ball and chain around their ankle. And every time they come back, if they don't make those changes that are necessary, Every time they come back, they seem to pull their families down.
Yeah.
And they leave, and then they come back with that ball and chain, they pull their families down. And the families many times get tired of digging out from underneath all the rubble. And the families have scars from that rubble, the house that the addict dropped on them through their behaviors when they either left and went on their run or they went into treatment. Sometimes they leave the family members under a bunch of financial issues. Their mom or the partner's home taking care of the kids, taking care of the bills. Maybe their partner's not working. Now there's one income coming in. There's a whole bunch of things going on. And family members are trying to dig themselves out from underneath that rubble and the root.
Yeah, that's tough. That is
Yeah,
very tough.
yeah,
So, I think that's where the forgiveness comes in. Not only from family members to the person, but for the person on themselves as well. So,
yeah,
it's tough.
yes,
Warren said the process is hard for some and not as hard for others, but the process isn't easy. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a destination. This thing of recovery. It's not a destination for a family or the addict.
Hmm.
And when I say a destination, it's not a place you're trying to get to. It's a process. It's a day-to-day journey.
Hmm.
It starts with how do you arm yourself? I call it arming yourself for battle when I deal with my and when working with the patients, to me, it's very similar to families. But working with the patients, just arming yourself for battle. I come from a Judeo-Christian background, so I'm able to take a lot of my Christian beliefs and I'm able to somehow help my patients from all walks of life identify and how it works for them. Arming yourself for battle is putting the helmet to me of salvation on. What is the helmet of salvation? For me as a Christian, it's starting my day with the things of God, reading something positive. But if you're from another different religion or another different faith, you have to start that day putting something positive in your mind. Even our Jordan one time said to me, whoever's in your ear is in your mind.
Mm.
The first few hours, or the first few, minutes of the morning when you wake up, hours, your mind is the most susceptible. And the first thing we tend to do, and I teach my patients not to do this, we pick up our phone, we look at what's on CNN, Fox, or other, and we also read the stock report. And it's something negative, or it could be something negative, and all of a sudden that's in our mind. And our mind is always feeding. So that's not the way you want to start your day. So I really encourage them to start their day by putting something positive in their mind that is going to get them started.
Hmm.
You want me to continue on with that, Nicole?
Well, let me pause right here because we got two comments that I want to bring up. So Angela said, I just let them know I still love them and let them know they're worth it, which is absolutely correct. You know,
Yes,
they are valuable. Um,
yes,
they are valuable. And so we got to continue to help them, see, have, not lose sight of that, right?
hmm,
Not lose sight of their value and their worth, even though, there have been some things that they've done that have been costly, um, in many aspects of what costly could be: financial, physical, emotional, spiritual, what have you. But they
yes,
still have value. And
yes,
then the second thing I wanted to bring up was Serena mentioning that this is where we see transitional greatly helping, and it gives an affordable option and space away from the addict's family to focus on recovery. So, and then there
yes,
was a shout out to Demp House, which is where
absolutely.
Serena works. But yeah, so that is another, that's part of the recovery, or could be essentially part of the recovery process, is, some affordable transitional housing until the person in recovery can get on their feet and whatnot. So, definitely want to mention that those resources are out there for folks.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And not only those resources are very important for the person who's struggling with addiction, because many times they leave the residential inpatient facility. They want to get right back home. They want to go right back into that area. And they're trying to convince themselves because they know they've done a lot of damage sometimes. So they want to get back and try to repair things real quick. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not quite ready for that. And most of all, their family members aren't quite ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to explain to them, I said, imagine coming home, and when you come home through that door, your partner, imagine them digging out from underneath bricks, and they got scars on the side of their head and they're bleeding. And you're coming home like, daddy's home, or mama's home, give me some love. And they look at you and they say, no, 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 it ain't gonna be that kind of party. I'm mad as all get up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they are happy to see them. Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So we really try to encourage the person struggling with addiction. It's okay to use some of these great sober living homes. It gives you time and space. I have a patient right now who I'm working with. His wife is mad as all get up with him.
Mm-hmm.
She's had enough. The mom has had enough. She told him, "You're not coming home. You either go to a sober living house. I don't care if you do it in California, whether you do it here in Jacksonville, but you're not coming home." And that's a family member who is scarred and hurt, and they
Right.
need time to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's again, it's heavy. It is very heavy. So I want to bring up a comment because we have someone that's willing to share about his life experience, and that is Mr. Warren Cave, who's right here in Tallahassee. He said, "I've been clean from a suicidal lifestyle of addiction for 24 years, and I must say, it's still a process. I try to never forget how I was June 3rd of 97. I try to stay connected to God and try to help others find Christ. I also still actively attend AA and NA meetings. So, for those of you who might not know, AA is Alcoholics Anonymous and NA is Narcotics Anonymous."
Wow.
And Mr. K further says, "Furthermore, as with family and friends, you never know how you're being received as being totally accepted. But if you know your relationship with God and you live to please God daily, you'll be okay."
That's absolutely right.
Mm,
That touches on another stigma. It's like that perceived stigma, right? It's that
mm,
belief that the addict have about themselves,
mm,
thinking that other people sometimes are maybe talking about them or not for them or is against them, right?
mm,
Maybe over this that overly critical voice
mm.
that's in their head, and that's a great, very, very, very good point that your caller brought.
Yes, thank you. So, Serena mentioned that some individuals want to take shortcuts. However, shortcuts are impossible and unrealistic.
Absolutely, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, they took what's interesting, and I work with my patients on. You took the long, hard, grinding road in your addiction, and you think your recovery is just going to be quick fix. It doesn't work like that.
mm,
I give them the example sometimes of the children of Israel. They were wandering in the wilderness for 40 years.
mm,
They never made it to the promised land. But you know what? Their higher God still blessed them. And I try to relate that with my patients that your higher power will continue to bless you in your wilderness experience and whatever that wilderness experience is for you. But there's no short.
mm,
But you do have to follow your path. And if you don't follow your path, you might find yourself wandering off around there in the wilderness again. You
mm,
got to follow the path that God has for you. And you got to understand there are no shortcuts. This is a process. This is a lifetime journey. And there's no skipping steps. to get there. You have to eat it 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time. And I say, eat it, take it, live it, do it.
Hmm. Good points. I actually think that's a really good segue to our finding purpose, unless there is another point you want to make on recovery.
Um, the only other point I would make is that self stigma that the addicts tend to have to deal with when they are entering into their recovery zone, and
Hmm.
that is that thoughts and feelings that the addict have about themselves, a person who's struggling with addiction have about themselves, and this type of stigma, that self stigma, it really shows up a lot in shame, and shows up a lot sometimes even in guilt, and it shows up in person wanting to isolate and say, you know what, um, I don't think I can do this. So maybe they need treatment. Maybe they need a great program like my friend Serena have with Dent House, Anchors of Recovery. They say, can't do it. I'm just going to fail. I can't do this here. So so we have to help them to work on those stigmas. One of the ways to work on the stigmas is having a little bit of passion. I teach my patients, stop being so hard on yourself.
Hmm.
Sanait would always tell me, she said, you're brutal on yourself sometimes. And that made so much sense to me because
Hmm.
my patients sometimes are brutal. They've already been kicked. They've already been down. They've already been beat down. That's what brought them into treatment. And I try to teach them this is the time now to start healing. You can't heal if you're going to keep beating yourself up.
Very good point. Very good point. So give yourself some grace.
Yes,
Be kind to yourself, and don't beat yourself down. Don't
absolutely.
beat yourself down. So let's talk around purpose. Let's talk around purpose. So you said the only way you're going to make it through this road is to basically find your purpose.
Absolutely. Um, I call it God. My patients depends on where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
It's your higher power. It's that source of strength. Without it, I'll go ahead and put it out. I don't think there's any way possible
Mm-hmm.
to recover from this addiction because I look at this addiction as an entity because I've seen the impact that it's had.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to deal with an entity, you have to arm yourself daily from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding your purpose is so vital and so important. And I try to help them understand that your purpose caused your birth. I'm a big believer of Dr. Miles Monroe, big follower of the late Dr. Miles Monroe, who has passed. He's influenced my life more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about your purpose caused your birth. And then he talks about your very existence is necessary because of your purpose. You were born not to, you weren't born to be an addict and to be having a needle stuck in your arm. You were born to do something that only you came to this planet to do. And your purpose, I try to work with my patients on, is that your purpose pulls you. It doesn't, you don't grow into your purpose, you're pulled into your purpose. That's why when they're out there running around on the street, they're trying to find something to make them feel good. They're trying to find something to fill those holes, as Judge Ashanafi would say, those holes in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
When they're out there trying to do all that they can do, there's something pulling them. And I try to let them know that thing that's pulling you is your purpose, is your destiny from your higher power, from your source. And that's why you are struggling and you wonder, like, why can't I not just stay at here? Like,
So, question: what do you say to folks that say, "Well, I don't know what my purpose is," you know, and maybe the addiction has caused them to be numb,
yeah,
or maybe deaf in terms of being able to hear and sense and get an understanding as to what that might be.
yeah, yeah. I hear that a lot of times with a lot of people I work with.
Hmm.
They don't know, how do you know what that purpose is?
Hmm.
Again, I would encourage anybody who's listening to me. I don't work for his ministry.
Hmm.
Go get any books on Dr. Miles Monroe. Purpose, potential, understanding your purpose. It will revolutionize the way you think. It'll revolutionize the way you live. There's three parts of purpose. One is finding that thing that probably just bothers you. It might be around the dinner table, but you're bringing up something, an issue or problem that just bothers you. It may not bother the other people that are around you, but it's sure enough, it's kind of your pet peeve. If you find that thing that is your pet peeve that you want to do, that whatever it is, you're probably in your purpose wheelhouse. The
Okay.
second part is finding that thing that you would do even if you weren't getting paid to do it.
Hmm.
But you find people like very successful people like Oprah Winfrey, you listen to her stories, she never chased money. She only chased her purpose. And when you find that thing that you will do for free, the thing that I would do for free is what I do right now. And I tell people that every day. I'm blessed that I receive a salary for what I do.
Hmm.
But what I do is not a job. It is tied into my destiny. And the third thing that I really encourage people to look into when you know you're in your purpose is that, what is that thing that you're passionate? And the thing that I know for me, I share my story. I'm passionate about addiction. I'm passionate about helping families recover, helping people who struggle with addiction. And what is that thing that you're passionate about that keeps you up at night, that keeps your brain running? It's your purpose. It's that thing that's causing you not to sleep at nighttime. You got these ideas in your head. It
Okay.
just comes up through all of that.
No, all good points. That thing that you would do for free, that thing that you're passionate about, and you said your pet peeve.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So Warren came back with a comment, but hold on, before I get to Warren's, we got a couple of other ones. So Jamil is saying, "What I do is part of my destiny. My job is ministry."
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
All right. Serena said, "We hear that a lot too and perform an exercise called 7 levels deep to discover their why or purpose," as Floyd mentioned. That's good.
Ooh, I gotta get with my sister and find out a little bit more about the setup. About
7 levels deep. I
wow.
like that.
Yes, indeed.
I like that. I like that. All right. So Warren said, "I have also come to grips with the mental intellectual challenge that many addicts need to overcome when they are thinking, living, surviving on an elementary or eighth grade level, and it's scary or frightening to them when you try to get them to understand a purpose in them that you and others see, but they can't come to grips with it."
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's that. I always like to say it's that voice on their shoulder, that negative voice on their shoulder, that negative whatever that is inside that speaks
Mm-hmm.
because you can't do this. Okay, you have limited education, you have limited knowledge. But the thing of it is that when you have recovery, you can still over you can overcome an addiction. you can overcome a whole lot of other stuff. You just got to be willing to accept some of the help that is out there for you and not go into that ego thing. And I call the ego edging God out, having too much of a pride to ask for help.
Hold on, Floyd. You said ego stands for edging God out.
Or edging your higher power out.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Carry on.
Yeah. So, Dr. Wayne Dyer said, when it comes to our higher power, our God, we can either be a host to God or we can be a hostage to our ego.
Hmm.
The reason he says that is because, again, one of my favorite people in the world, she told me, she said, invite God in. Invite him in. He's a gentleman. The higher power is a gentleman. And pray and meditate. And that thing that is in you to do. That's why my belief is the great Napoleon Hill, whatsoever the mind of man can conceive, or a person can conceive and bring themselves to believe, they can achieve. But becoming a hostage to your egos when you edge God out and say, you know what? I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to ask for help. But sometimes people think not asking for help is humility. Sometimes not asking for help is pride. And edging God out is part of that pride. No, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to ask for this. Somebody asks you if you need help. No, I'm good. I'm okay. And when you're really not okay, you don't have the education, you don't have the background. God has a way of bringing people in our lives. I never imagined being on a radio talk program. But then one day I saw myself being on one. And somehow, some way, I met you, Nicole, through some great people. And here I am. God can do anything. Allow him to do it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back. Warren said that he made that comment because they feel as if their purpose is a way of lifestyle that has been destroying them.
They do. They do. Because they adapted to that. And that was a lie. That's a false narrative. They may have grew up like that. That might be what they saw. I don't know if my brothers or sisters are on, but I grew up in some wild dysfunction. I thought that dysfunction was normal. And when I got older, I came to find out that wasn't normal. I adapted to the dysfunction. And I made that my norm. What we do is that we have to then, when I'm working with a patient who's getting into recovery, try to help them to understand that recovery is also about changing the way they see things, changing the way they do things, changing the way they talk. Their words are power. Okay, so it's like a whole person transformation rather than just one part of it. You got to work on every part of you to get out of that. Changing that thinking is really, really hard because of the autonomic or the automatic patterns that we have. And I think last time we talked about those patterns, those automatic thinking. This is the way I do things. Bam, bam, bam. To start a new pattern, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some conscious work to do it. But at some point in time, it will become what I call that unconditioned confidence, autopilot, where they're doing it automatically, no matter what it is. Because when they were out there doing and Warren in the test, when they're out there doing their lifestyle of addiction, it was some automatic behavior, automatic thinking patterns. It's going to take some work to reverse that, but it can be done.
Absolutely. So E just co-signed about life and death being in the power of the tongue. And it's very true. So what you say, you're thinking that you're saying it to yourself, but you hear those words as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I said, who's ever in your ear is in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't. That's why I said our minds are feeding all the time on
Absolutely.
something. Whether we're like great shows like yours here in the call,
Mm-hmm.
good food, not because I'm on it, but because of the job that you do and the guests that you bring in to
Right.
enlighten and educate our communities. And that's knowledge is truly power. And I try
Mm-hmm.
to always implement that into uh, the patients I work with. I don't care if I do 4 hours of group. Sometimes on a Saturday, I might do 4 hours worth of groups. A person might say, "A lot of groups, man. How do you do that?" Because I'm giving them my overflow, and I want to put into them as often and as much as I can. I want it to be almost like imprinted into their brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
That time comes when they are faced with that question, it comes up. Oh, well,
Right.
Floyd said do A, B, C, and D. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's all about. It's about, it's about depositing into them these seeds, watering them, and watching them grow.
Absolutely. So we got a question from Sanayat. Says, do you find that after an addict or alcoholic goes through the recovery process, they discover that the root of their addiction is in other mental health issues that have been undiagnosed? They use the drugs or alcohol to self medicate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is what came first, the chicken or the egg.
An egg, right?
It's but what we do know is that we got to treat both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Stanley Saminow um, wrote these great books on the criminal mind or the criminal mind and the addict. Which came first, the criminal behavior or the addiction? There are many, many people out there who use a stimulant like cocaine because they're depressed. And a lot of times they'll use a cocaine to stimulate them, then they'll drink alcohol to bring them down. So they're trying to manage their mood, right? So the mental illnesses affect their mood and it affect, for example, a person who has who is schizoaffective or has a diagnosis of schizophrenia, and they may be hearing voices.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing those voices are very disturbing, and they want to drink to suppress those voices. And when I worked in Baker Act receiving facilities, that's the one thing I would hear a patient who has a diagnosis of schizoaffective schizophrenia who's hearing voices. They say, Floyd, I drink because I don't want to hear those voices. Or I'll take another drug or a medication to suppress those voices that are in my head. So
Mm-hmm.
mental illness is definitely a big risk factor when it comes down to helping a person to manage because sometimes what they'll do is they'll say they'll deny the mental health issue and they'll say, you know what, I'm going to work on the substance abuse piece. I'm not going to take my medication. I'm just going to work on the substance. Well, guess what happens? They then start regressing,
Mm-hmm.
getting depressed, having the racing thoughts. So now it's overwhelming to them sometimes. Instead of taking the medication, go back to the psychiatrist and being reevaluated. And sometimes it's easier to turn to the drug or the alcohol
Mm-hmm.
to help them manage that.
Okay. Yeah, that's I think the self-medication piece happens way more frequently than we probably care to acknowledge.
It does.
And I think the self-medication comes in a bunch of different forms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's not just relegated to alcohol and drug misuse.
It comes in shopping, gambling.
Hmm.
It comes in anything that can create that dopamine response.
Exactly.
What can give you that dopamine? Gambling. Talk to a person who has a gambling addiction, they'll tell you it's that rush.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk to a person who has an addiction with pornography. I work with these people every day, and they always tell me it's a rush. That's the thing that it's that rush. And they miss sometimes. And I tell them, your truth is your power.
Mm-hmm.
Unto thyself be true. And sometimes they miss that lifestyle. What is going to give me that rush? What's going to give me that adrenaline rush? So that's where we go back to again, working on filling yourself up
Yes.
with that source of power. And I have a whole thing that I work with them on with that. And it seems like it has been very effective for some.
No, that's very good. Very good. So I know in this, finding purpose,
Mhm.
we talked about kind of discovering who you are.
Yeah.
And, especially if you've been an addict for a long time, you may feel like you don't know who you are.
Hmm.
So really, digging kind of deep and identifying what are those things that you enjoy and are passionate about.
Hmm.
Um, I think maybe sometimes as adults, it's tough sometimes for us to pursue those things, especially if we hadn't done them before, or it's been a long time since we've done them. So maybe would you recommend that they get with like-minded people or people that are doing some of the things that they're desiring to do, whether that's a trade or some type of skill, or maybe they're trying to learn a skill to help, get them to where it is they're trying to go.
Yeah, absolutely, Nicole. And that's again, this everything we're talking about always ties back to the recovery process. And this can be a part of their recovery process. Okay. Finding out what is it that I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I need a master's degree to do that. Well, as my guy Miles Monroe would say, you already got the master's degree. God's already shown you the master's degree. Now you got to go back to the beginning and now go get it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already yours. So I encourage them to write down their goals, right? Write them out and make the vision plain. What it
Mm-hmm.
is that you want to do. Don't just put it in your head, because in your head, we all have to deal with them, all these cognitive distortions, these self-doubts, and that great dream and vision that you got in your head can get sometimes clouded with all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. So write it down and put it on paper. When you put your thoughts on paper, boy, they can become very, very powerful. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So also get around other like-minded people. I think we may have talked about this before, or I've talked about it with some of my patients. Geese can fly a lot further in formation and in together than they can by themselves. So when we hook up with other like-minded people, we get stronger. It's like working out and going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
We get stronger because we have a spotter or a workout partner. That's proven to be the fact. So having other people to hold you accountable in a very, very loving way. A person that is on this line that I admire so much. She tells me she is a witness to my life.
Mm-hmm.
She holds me accountable by reminding me, how are you doing in school? What are you doing? That's very important to me. You know why? Because it reminds me that I need to stay on track. I, I I don't have to have that, but having that support is encouraging. Being a part of a men's group, whether it's AANA, being a part of a woman, whether it's AA or NA, having other people that can be a support and hold you accountable in a very productive way is one of the ways to help achieve your goal, because you can't do this thing by yourself. Can't do it by yourself. You got to have help. The greatest man in the Bible, Moses, needed somebody to help hold his arms up as he blessed the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm. No, great point. Great point. Yeah, so that was kind of what I was getting to, was the support piece, because I really, wanted to hear you talk around how important support is.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times sometimes one of the things of working with the person struggling with addiction, I'll be like, well, I don't like being in a group. I don't like being around a group of other people. I don't like AA or NA. Well, they don't get off that easy. You know why? Okay, fine. You don't like AA or NA. There are other supports out there
Mm-hmm.
outside of your family. There are other supports out there that you can connect with. But you can't do it by yourself. We have an old saying, you are as sick as your secrets. And your addiction wants to keep you isolated and in secret and by yourself. That's what your addiction wants to do. Addiction don't play fair, doesn't fight fair. It wants to get you in your mind by yourself. It wants to get you isolated by yourself. It wants to disconnect you from your source, which is God, your higher power, by yourself. And if we can even go way back into the Bible, even with Adam and Eve, Eve was isolated, talking to the serpent by herself.
That's a whole word right there. He said you are as sick as your secrets. Wow. Okay, let me go back to Warren. Warren said, I found my purpose 3 years into sobriety. The thing that keeps me going is I learned to win souls, educate people on a better way of living, network with organizations and people that love helping people become their best. I get high on the word and drunk in the spirit. That's my everyday high. That's great, Warren. Thank you for sharing that.
Wow.
Yeah. Jamil said, writing your goals down makes it tangible. You'll have a written record of your thoughts that you can hold in your hand instead of in your head.
Well, I like that.
Mm-hmm. So Jamil is into affirmations. She actually has a book of affirmations. It's a word search, but the words are affirmative words, affirming words. And so words do make a difference. And Jamil is all about affirming the positive I am.
Mm, mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you don't put nothing. You gotta be careful what you put. I know Jamil knows this. You gotta be careful what you put behind the I am.
That's right.
And I work with my patients on that. Be
Mm-hmm.
careful what you call yourself
Mm-hmm.
to be, because your I amness is very powerful. And I really encourage people to be mindful of that I am, because that is we believe the name of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. All right. So we are kind of coming down the wire in terms of our time, but I did want to, give you an opportunity to, if there was anything else that you wanted to say about finding your purpose before we kind of wrap up with your, how folks can connect with you and so on and so forth. So, we've talked about ego, edging God out. I took that note, and we talked about you are as sick as your secrets and the
Mhm.
importance of writing things down, writing your purpose down, your
Yeah.
passion down, finding that thing that you would do that you would do even if you weren't getting paid for it. So all of those are really good.
Yes. Yes. If I would say anything in the end, and that would simply be watch what you, just like you watch what you put in your body. I hope
Hmm.
we do, because if you put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people to watch what they put in their minds, watch what they listen to,
Mm-hmm.
watch the conversations that you have, because all of those things have an incredible impact on you. And as I was talking about at the beginning, you sit in your truth, identify what your truth is. Don't let anybody talk you out of that thing that is deep down inside of you that you can't even go to sleep at night. And I know there's people out there that can identify with you. You can't rest. Every time you try to go to another job, there's something pulling you. You go from job to job to job, but that purpose and that destiny is pulling you. And I know mine has pulled me, and I know mine has kept me up and down to where I had to start writing. And once I wrote my purpose and on my destiny, so I'll let you go to sleep because there's that thing that's deep down inside of you, and don't let anything tell you what you cannot do. Find that place, that secret place, that place where you can meditate, you can think, you can just sit in silence. Silence can be your strength, it's not your enemy. And sit in that silence. And I know that me and tonight we went to this movie the last about 2 weeks ago, and the person said, if you sit in the question long enough, the answer will come. And I just think that is all about learning to find your purpose and learning to find your way. And that's what I would say to people. And I can be found on LinkedIn and on Facebook, Floyd Joy, on both of those sites. Floyd Joy Cornelius.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. He said if you sit in your what'd you say?
If you sit in the if you sit in the question long enough, the answer will
In the
come.
question long enough, the answer will come. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. We're getting a lot of great feedback from folks. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Cynthia said another great show, Floyd. So proud of you. You are speaking the truth. Love you. Nice. Cynthia said, I wish mom could see you. She would be so proud. Oh, so sweet.
That's gonna make me tear up because my mom passed in September. So
Oh, sorry to hear that. Our condolences.
yes,
All right. Jamil was getting a shout out. Serena said, amazing points. I truly love the spiritual references made. All right. Ozzy is giving us Psalm 91. All right. Jamil. Okay. Everybody's chiming in. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you all. Our family is chiming in. We love it. We love it. We love it. Okay, and then Warren gave us Habakkuk 2:1.
the vision is yet
Yeah.
for a time. It shall speak and
Mhm.
not
Yes, Habakkuk 1 is vital, and many people miss it because they get stuck on Habakkuk 2:2. But we have to learn to sit in solitude to hear from God first before we write down our vision and plans.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I think sometimes it's the trouble is in determining what voice you're hearing, whether
Mhm.
it's you, whether it's God or somebody else, or some, many somebody else's, you know. So
Exactly.
that's a practice. That is a practice.
It
Hmm.
is. It is. As I heard said to me one time before, prayer is talking to God,
Hmm.
and meditating is hearing from God.
Mm.
And I can give you one example after example. I have had some of my greatest psychoeducation, psychotherapy groups. I walk into my class, and I remember one of my patients said, "Oh, Mr. Floyd, great class yesterday. What are we going to talk about today?" I said, "I have absolutely no idea." And as soon as I open up my mouth, the words start flowing.
Mm.
Where do they come from?
Mm-hmm.
Come from a silent, quiet place of
Mm-hmm.
meditating, not asking, but just receiving. My
Mm-hmm.
mind, because it's the reservoir that God has put in us. And
Yeah.
just trust Him that when you open your mouth to speak, He will speak for you.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many times, because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. What are you going to say? I have no idea. And it comes out. I remember speakers will always say that to me. And I said, come on, give me a be serious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
So Chastity said the best way to hear God is reading His Word. Reading the Word of God makes you become more sensitive to the voice of God. Very
Amen.
good point, Chastity.
Yes.
Very good point. All right, good deal. Well, tell us again. I think your sound may have been a little muffled. Tell folks how they can connect with you.
Floyd Joy Cornelius at
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and on LinkedIn.
Floyd Joy Cornelius, Facebook and LinkedIn. So I'm gonna make you tell the story again of where the joy came from.
Yeah, my older brother, I don't know if he's on tonight. I think I was about age 11, always laughing and always smiling. He said, I'm going to nickname you Joy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that meant until I got older. And I understood that the joy of the Lord is my strength, is my power, is my source. It's the thing that allows me to look at death, allows me to look at life, allows me to look at consequences, ups and downs.
Mm.
Still keep on pressing on.
Okay.
That's what the joy is all about.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you for giving us some joy tonight
Thank you.
and sharing your wealth of knowledge and expertise on addiction recovery and finding purpose. If this has benefited you all, please share it with someone else. Please, let them know that they can make it through. And connect with a counselor or therapist because they're here for you. This is why we're doing this. This is, we want you to see a real live counselor therapist that's doing the work and know that you can receive services if you need it. So this is what it is all about. All about. Oh, there's Nina on here. She said joy is a fitting nickname for you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we will be back on God willing on Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday. Dr. Angela Henderson, who is right here in Tallahassee. We're going to keep the joy conversation going because we are talking about finding and sustaining Black joy. Finding and sustaining Black joy. So it should be a very interesting conversation. So
Yeah.
I invite you all to come back and bring two friends with you. If you have not subscribed to the Conversation with Nicole YouTube channel, please do so. Please watch some of the. Well, actually, you don't even have to watch. Just listen. Let it play. My goal, and I really hadn't been putting this out there, but I guess I need to. My goal is to reach 5,000 viewing hours. I'm sorry, 4,000 viewing hours by March 31st. So help me get some hours. Help me get those viewing hours. Just treat it like a podcast. Let those videos play and listen in. Be great if you like and comment, but if you listen, that would help out tremendously. So, oh, thank you, Cynthia. She said, thank you, Nicole, for another great show. Appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you. Appreciate you again, Floyd Joy Cornelius, for being my guest. And you must come back um,
Yes.
sometime in the future and talk some more around whatever we decide we're going to talk about, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good, 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 good. Well, you all have a great rest of the evening. And please be careful out there. Take care. Wear your mask, be safe, all of that good stuff. And we will see you hopefully Wednesday or Tuesday. Tomorrow I do have singles mingle. So you can check me out here tomorrow, Tuesday, 8:30. So y'all have a good night. Peace.
Right.